Let's go.
What a lovely day!
Andy, there's a whole world out there. Jump in.
Can you dig it?
Yeah.
You must always pay strict attention.
I was just completely enamored by it the entire time.
Dude, he did not have to go that hard.
I know, man. Isn't it wild?
The Charade cast.
So it begins.
Hello, and welcome back to the Charade cast. I almost said listen to this podcast. Having two of them is throwing my dumb baby boy brain off too much.
Yeah.
Welcome back. It's good to be back. It's been a while since you and I have recorded. We delayed it a couple days, but I'm happy to be here. If you're unfamiliar and you're new to this podcast, welcome. Happy to see you. We're not seeing you. You might be seeing me. Hi, wave to the camera. We review movies, and there are going to be a lot of spoilers. I am one of your hosts, Jared. With me, as always, Jared. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. Still watching Vox Machina, still watching Peacemaker. Both are excellent.
Good.
I also started The Cleaning Lady on Fox, which is kind of like a
Never
fun
even
little.
heard of it.
Yeah, it's got Elodie Young plays the main character. She played Elektra in the Netflix Daredevil, and it's like a simple cable thing, but it's like really heartfelt, and I'm enjoying that.
Okay, at least it's got some charm to it.
Yeah, it's got charm. But yeah, that's pretty much it with me. How are you doing?
I'm good. It was a long and honestly kind of rough week. A lot of mental fuzz going, but we're up swinging. We're getting out of it. The rut has been accomplished, and so it's all positive vibes here today. Overall, I'm doing good.
How's listening to this going?
It's good. We just talked about an emo album that was like all positivity, which is weird. And next week we're doing the history of Interpol, which I know nothing about. So,
oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
But
it's going
only
well.
know like 2 songs.
Yeah, and here's a tip: all the other ones sound like those 2 songs.
That's fine.
Renato texted me and he was like, "You want to do the history of Spoon or Interpol?" And I was like, "They're different bands." That was crazy that those were my options. But I'm excited for it. He's a big fan, and I like their music. I've seen them, so I at least fuck with them. So I'm excited.
Hell yeah, cool. I'm
yeah,
excited.
and finally saw Licorice Pizza, and it was tight. So
Fuck yeah.
we got it. Now I just need to drive my car, but I'm not trying to drive my car 3 hours to see it. And
Did it screw up your list?
Yeah, but not a ton.
Not a top
I'm
fiver?
waiting to. No, I loved it. I just think it wasn't hitting me the way I thought it was. But it was still phenomenal, and Alana absolutely fucking killed it. So I'm excited to see if she acts more, definitely.
Dude,
But
I was not expecting the whole family to be in it. I was like squealing. Because I've never heard her dad's voice before. Like, that was
yeah,
awesome.
I haven't either. So it was tight. It was a great movie. Check it out. But we're not here to talk about that. No. This is a pseudo part 2 to a previous episode where we did modern rom-coms. Now we're hitting some classics. We've got Charade from 63.
Yes.
And then It Happened One Night from 34. 34. So some bangers. I'm going to be honest. Love both these movies. I'm excited to get into it. But before we do, we got a real juicy, gossipy, hot off the presses top 5 for everybody. Why don't you tell the beautiful people what we're going to talk about?
Oh my god, dude. So, unless you've been living under a rock, or unless you don't know us, or don't follow me on Instagram, where I spew out all my hatred. The Academy has once again royally screwed up with their voting. I think, like Titan not even making the short list. Freaking so many best actors, so many best actresses that we just didn't see at all. Thankfully, those people got nominated for other things, and that will hopefully drive more viewers to see their movies. Because that's at the end of the day, that's what these award shows are for. It's for getting people into the seats. But it's still a low down, dirty shame that these people who are supposed to be qualified Academy voters don't even recognize some of the most simple, basic, mainstream, excellent movies. And it's really annoying. And so we're talking the top 5 worst snubs at the Academy Awards 2022. Oh my goodness. I'm excited to go off. But I will hold off my excitement and allow Jared to go first.
I'm very much appreciated. Thank you. Number 5 is a bit grasping for straws, because this movie, a lot of nominations. In fact, the second most nominations. We're talking Dune. How do you have the second most nominations, a film that was supposedly impossible to make, and Denis Villeneuve does not get a Best Director nom?
Yeah.
What? It is insane.
Stupid.
I thought that was like a shoe-in. Seeing the list, I was like, oh, there's Dune, there's Dune, there's Dune. One of the few things that it like definitely deserved nothing. So I was very disappointed to see that.
Dude, I knew that would be on your list, because I was pissed
to.
Too. Like, oh my god, like, yeah, it just didn't have a director.
Yeah, the actors were just happening to do that. they were just fell into the right spot. It's crazy.
Yeah. My number 5 is more of a personal thing. Like, I understand, because really, unless it's Disney, it's very, very difficult to get nominated for an animated movie to get nominated for Best Picture. But I still think, like, it's a movie that's very mainstream, but it's also about filmmaking. It's also about current events, and it's about the state of, like, our world today and the way we look at the world through the internet. So I'm really puzzled as to why the Mitchells versus the Machines didn't get a chance at Best Picture. I am very happy that it's nominated for Best Animated Feature. I don't think it'll win, because these cowards are probably going to vote for Encanto.
Yeah, absolutely a shoe-in.
But yeah, honestly, like, I'm glad it's even in the Oscars, but I think it deserved Best Picture nomination.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's a fantastic movie. I'm not surprised to have that show up on your list. So far predictable, and that ain't gonna stop here, because number 4 is the Best Cinematography category.
Yeah.
Quite possibly the most beautiful looking movie to come out this year. I don't even think it got a production design nod either. And that's The Green Knight. That shit's gorgeous. Every single shot is like a painting. The way they use color in it's fantastic. And that's like most of the movie is just the cinematography. And so I was baffled at this choice. Absolutely a snub, and absolutely disappointing.
Do you have the nominations in front of you?
No, I do not, but I should. That's probably a good idea.
I'll check them out right now. Yeah, I got it. So let's see the nominations for cinematography in feature film. Yeah, so production design, okay, Dune deserves, Nightmare Alley, okay, Power of the Dog, okay, Tragedy in Macbeth deserves, West Side Story, haven't seen it, probably won't, maybe I will, I don't know. But cinematography, So Dune, Nightmare Alley, no. The power of the dog, the tragedy of Macbeth, and West Side Story, no.
Yeah,
Um,
like
I can tell.
Dune and what I've seen from Tragedy of Macbeth, it looks gorgeous,
Yeah,
but the others I'm not so sure.
yeah, and like, why are they limiting it to 5, man? Like,
Right?
you know,
Like even like Lamb could have been nominated for best
yeah,
cinematography over some of these.
yeah,
But I think The Green Knight is the bigger snub here.
yeah. I agree. I agree. Um, yeah, man. I didn't even think about the cinematography category. Um, sheesh. The best original score category was one that really it bums me out a little bit because this movie was thankfully nominated for multiple awards, but uh, Don't Look Up, really, like okay,
I haven't seen it. I don't know. I've been
it's
avoiding it.
it's fine, like it's a
Yeah,
fine movie. It does
it
not
looks
deserve
just fine.
it does not deserve to be nominated for best picture. It does not deserve to be nominated for best original song. Okay, so mild spoilers. Ariana Grande in the movie writes a song, and the song is supposed to be a joke called "Just Look Up," and that song, the joke song, got nominated for best original song. I have no idea what these people are thinking. I don't think they listen to music. I think they just want the people there. And I have nothing against Nicholas Brittle. I think he's absolutely amazing. If Beale Street can talk, even Underground Railroad was my favorite television show, and he did all 10 hours of it. And he's an
Right.
absolutely amazing composer. But instead of putting him on this list, I think Eiko Ishibashi from Drive My Car deserves to be on this list. It's a piano-driven score, so to me, it's something that's right up the Academy voters' alley. Like, it's something that they would actually like. That's very digestible. They use the
Mhm.
sound. They incorporate sound design from the movie into the score album, which is really really nice. Like, you hear cars driving by. It's
That's
really
awesome.
it's really really cool. It's stressful when you're listening in the car,
Hmm.
but uh, but really cool to listen to just at work or something. Yeah, Eiko Ishibashi for number 4.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a good pick. Still haven't seen it. Did you already forget that I said that 5 minutes ago? Fucking psychopath! Listen to us. We're talking to you here. Um, number three. Number three is a pretty general one because this
Mm,
movie just didn't exist. I think you could have put it Best Picture. I think Best Actor. Um, Best Supporting Actor, maybe even. This movie just doesn't exist to the Academy, apparently. And that's Come On, Come On.
yeah,
One of the most Oscar baity movies of the year. Like, come on, come on. Like this should have been nominated. I think the hatred that the Academy has for Joaquin Phoenix for some goddamn reason. Um, it's crazy. I think it should have been Best Picture over. I haven't seen West Side Story, but I don't think it probably deserved. And I'm skeptical about King Richard too. But yeah, I think it deserved something, and it got nothing, and
yeah,
that's a shame.
yeah. I agree. Like, I haven't seen King Richard and West Side Story either. They both look nice, but like
Hmm.
what Come On does is it takes you it hits that like nice like note, but it like goes so much deeper, and
Yeah,
I love it for that.
and it's like a half documentary, which is tight as fuck.
Yeah,
Like that's just cool.
it's amazing. Um, yeah, my number 3 is also related to Come On. I had my number 3 down for Joaquin Phoenix as Best Actor.
Hmm.
I'm confuzzled. I'm truly confuzzled. I love Javier Bardem, but I could tell in the trailer that his accent wasn't going to cut it for Desi Arnaz. I've been avoiding that movie for personal reasons as well, just because I grew up with I Love Lucy, so I don't want to tarnish. But maybe I'll check it out. Maybe Bardem is good. I don't know. But
He's always good.
yeah. But yeah, the rest of them just feel like obligatory picks. I feel like having Joaquin. I feel like a lot of people, because I was reading. I mentioned this a couple years ago. Someone published their reasons for voting, and I was like, shit. If even like 10% of the voters are this stupid, like it ruins everything. And they were literally like their reasons were like, this person's already been nominated before, they don't deserve a vote. And
No,
I
that's not
feel
how it works.
yeah, I feel like that's how they approached this thing with Joaquin Phoenix. I feel like a lot of people just didn't vote for him because he won for Joker.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a bummer to me.
Yeah. A fat old shame. But moving on, my number 2 is 2 movies. How appropriate. Both for the same category. Both deserve it, probably more than any of the other noms. I will pull up the list just to rage about it more. But that is Last Night in Soho and The French Dispatch getting 0 production design,
Yeah.
anything. Costume design, set design, flat out best production design, nada. And both of those movies are production design the movie, basically. Like creating almost dead but barely hanging on genre of Gaio films out of the goddamn grave with Soho and turning fucking cinema into a magazine in French Dispatch. Come on. Like both of those deserve to win, not let alone be nominated. I was very pissed off at both of them. And both just also got 0 nominations for this year.
Yeah. I'm surprised that the French Dispatch didn't get anything because Wes Anderson normally at least gets like 1.
Yeah, he's just like, here, you're Wes Anderson, take your take your yearly nomination.
Yeah. My number 2 was a massive bummer to me. Just to see this movie generally excluded from the Oscars was a massive bummer. I was hoping that the Academy was getting over their, over the years, was getting over their bias against genre cinema. But yeah, Agatha Roussel as best should have been nominated for Best Actress. In my opinion, she is the best actress of the year for the film Titan, or Titan, or Titan. I don't know. I still don't know. But yeah, it's an amazing performance. It's a very physical, very haunting, and very, very unconventional performance. And especially with all the conversations going on now about like gender and love between people, and like the kind of breaking down family, like the typical family structure, and exploring new family structures. I feel like that's something that the Academy would like, but guess not. Yeah. Massive bummer.
Absolutely. And that segues into my number 1 because it's Teton not getting even shortlisted for Best Foreign Film, Best Picture, anything. Absolutely shafted this year. Sure, it's weird, but like, I don't know. You could look past it. I think it definitely deserved at least Best Foreign Film. Just winning the Palme d'Or at Cannes, you should automatically get a nomination for something. I feel like you've proven yourself to film critics. But I guess America ain't ready for the French invasion here. Yeah, absolute tragedy. Kind of an obvious number 1 if you're a fan of the show, because we've been complaining about it since the movie came out. But yeah, number 1, Titan.
Yeah, I 100% agree. This was my favorite movie of the year, as we talked about in our lists episode. And I, like with the weird thing, like I feel like Mad Max Fury Road was weird in all the same ways, but I think because that movie was
not all the same ways,
all the same ways, but like a similar level of weird and wacky, and like, but it got nominated for like what, like 8, something crazy, like a lot
every single technical award.
Yeah, and Best Picture. I think it's also the popularity of the film after the box office was a big factor too.
Fair.
Yeah, I don't know. With my number one though, I was looking at the best visual effects category, and I am Confucian because to resurrect a 12-year-old meme.
You dead meme.
I am Confucian because don't get me wrong, I love Spider-Man No Way Home. I think it's an amazing Spider-Man movie. I think it
Not enough to make a top 20 in your list, but that's okay.
Well, I cut like 30 movies. I cut like 30 movies from that list. But yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home, like I think it's a really good Spider-Man movie. It fixes a lot of the mistakes that I saw in the other Spider-Man movies writing wise. But like visual effects, like
I don't know, I haven't seen it.
there's one sunset scene that I'm like, that's a rookie mistake, man. Like
yeah.
Like there's some other great visual effects, but there's a couple that are just like, nah.
It's like when Black Panther got nominated for visual effects,
Right.
and the CG in that movie is not good for like Marvel standards now. It is bad.
Yeah, I even like that movie a lot, but even I know I'm like, no, not the visual effects. Same with Shang-Chi. Like Shang-Chi had some awesome visual effects in the first half, but in the second half, there's like a dragon. The dragon doesn't look great. Yeah, I'm so confused because to me, watching it in the theaters twice and then watching it at home, like Godzilla versus Kong looked real. It looked real. Like it looked like a giant monkey was punching a giant ape was punching a giant lizard in the face. It looked real. The rain falling off of the rain and the sea foam sticking to his fur, to King Kong's fur. It was amazing, dude. So why the hell was Godzilla versus Kong not nominated for best visual effects? It's
That
like
is
they're not
crazy.
even they're not even looking at the effects. It's just like, oh, Disney, I'm assuming it's good. Yeah.
It's visual effects has always kind of been popular. Blockbuster movie goes here. Like it's always going to be a Star Wars and a superhero and shit like that. So I'm kind of surprised it wasn't Godzilla because it fits that. It even fits that mold.
Yeah. Did you see it?
No, I still haven't.
Okay, I'm gonna try not to, but they go to there's a location that's with very weird physics rules, and it looks insane. Like it's like,
do they fight on the moon or something?
They don't go to the moon. They don't go to the moon. It's almost weirder than going to the moon. But it's weird, it's wacky, it's kind of silly, it's kind of stupid.
Yeah,
but
it's Godzilla versus Kong. It's not gonna be normal.
But I swear to God, it looked real. Like I was like, yeah, we're here now. This is it. Like
We've made it.
We've gone there. Yeah. I don't know. I personally hurt that Godzilla versus Kong because I feel bad not even including it in my top 15. But Godzilla vs. Kong is such a fun movie. Yeah,
I definitely need to see it. I love our chonky boy Godzilla, so how could I not?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we are not here to talk about Godzilla or Kong, but it's Oscar adjacent because it happened one night. First movie to sweep all the major Oscars and sweep America off their feet. But before we get into it, we've got a very delightful review that was not at all a last minute implication here from J. Rodriguez 4 saying, "Not my kind of funny." Gave it a 1 out of 10. So, it was a talkie. I think it would have been better silent with a SCILENT. I don't know. Skylent. I don't know how to pronounce it. The videography of the movie was fine, but the idea of the movie just wasn't for me. The transition from scene to skeen was done was well done, and the movie had some great actors. I'm not a fan of the director's other works either. I guess it's just his style that throws me off. It was one of those movies that was way too far out there for me to enjoy. If you don't like movies with dumb type characters, don't see this movie. It's too far out, man. Getting a little weird for me on It Happened One Night. the most normal, straightforward movie. I love it. I love it. Yeah, It Happened One Night, 1934, directed by Frank Capra. Starring Claudette Colbert and Clark Gable. Not a mixture of their name. Is there like couple name? Just a different last name entirely. It kind of started the screwball genre. If you're unfamiliar, screwball comedy was kind of birthed out of newly enforced laws about sexuality in movies. You couldn't show anything, so they're like, well, we'll just imply everything, and so what you get is this fast talking, kind of witty, dialogue driven genre of film. You see it in this, you see it in His Girl Friday, Some Like It Hot, and pretty much every romantic comedy after that kind of borrows that style a bit. Yeah. And so It Happened One Night launched that off. Claudette said it was, after she wrapped filming, she said, I've just made the worst movie of my career. It bombed in the box office the first run, but the second one blew the fuck up. And a lot of that is because it's a product of its time. Surprise, surprise, all movies kind of are. But this one in general, and screwball comedies for sure, they always talk about gender relations. They're always talking about like upper class versus lower class and those kinds of themes. And It Happened One Night to a T. It comes out right after women start being in the labor force. So it's that dynamic of masculinity and femininity and your roles in a society very well explored here. And that's kind of why I love it. I think they do an absolutely brilliant job. I don't think it holds up as like well today as some movies, but that's okay. It wasn't made for the audience almost 100 years later. Like it's gonna have its faults, and I think it does. But what I also think it does is fantastically just paints the portrait of America in 1934. You get creepy dudes, you get misogyny, you get almost overcoming misogyny, but not quite. You get, you just get everything. And I think it does a delightful job. The chemistry between Gable and Colbert are absolutely amazing. They are fucking perfect on screen together. And that kind of makes it what it is. Cinematography, basic as fuck. Editing, it's pretty good. It's fine. The writing's fantastic though. The jokes still land to this day. I'm still laughing when I watch this movie, and I absolutely adore it. It's one of my favorite rom-coms ever, and that still stands true. So I'll give it a 9 out of 10.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel very similarly about it. I think, you know, even though Gable is mostly known for Gone with the Wind, I've always felt like this was my favorite performance of his, because he's got that kind of rugged charm that that people loved him for, the like kind of just automatic, super snappy comeback that like in the in the in their conversations in the dialogue is really really cool, and it really helps along the pace of the movie. It really uh, enforces the verisimilitude of their relationship and their feelings for each other as they develop on the road. Um, it also really like yeah, and the movie's really funny, especially when you pit Colbert against Gable, and they just get to go at it. I think it's really really cool. Um, I don't know where it stands as far as Capra or Capra. I don't know.
Yes. I don't
Right.
know. I always heard Capra, but Capra kind of has a nice twang to it, so I really don't know.
Um, yeah, I don't know where it would rank in Frank Capra's filmography because his movies are very different, but they all kind of
hmm
do this really good job, like you said, of capturing America at the time of its release, and really, I'm thinking about like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington,
hmm
like that's really like how that country how this that version of this country felt at the time
hmm
about the way its government was acting and all that stuff during the Great Depression.
Yeah.
And I feel that here too, like the 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 trauma of the Depression is marked everywhere here, but I think that also helps is marked at every location that they visit. But I think that's part of why this movie was so successful with working class citizens at the time, is because like they got to see like two of the most beautiful people in the world live the life the way they do,
hmm
and see this rich girl who like is totally out of touch with the rest of the country have to go through it, the same shit that everybody else is dealing with on a daily basis. And I think that
hmm
that's a really really special thing, and I think that's why people went to go see it. I think that's why people went to go see it again and again and again. I agree, the cinematography is not super great. um, uh, Capra's cinematographic style took time to evolve to a better, more polished state. The editing by Gene Havlick is probably to me the weakest thing about it. Actually, like I don't like the kind of episodic fading to black and fading, but like honestly, I don't hold it against the movie too much because talkies were only 5 years old at this point. Like
Yeah.
it's really really tough to grade this one by modern standards. But yeah, overall, I think it deserved like winning the Big Five, and I think it deserves its accolades as one of the greatest films ever made. I give it a 8.7.
Yeah. A very good score. Um, yeah, it's like you touched on it when you said that it just touched the working class people, and it really did because once it came out, it was all small towns that was blowing it up. It wasn't like
Yeah,
popular in New York or LA or any big cities. It was the small town folk, and it was just word of mouth that kind of got the ball rolling on this film. And that's why it's got so much charm to it. It's got class struggle without making the rich person insufferable, which is very hard to do. Like
yeah,
it's hard to show a wealthy aristocratic type go through a shower in public that you have to wait in line for and not have them be like insufferable about it. She kind of is, she's learning. And that's the awesome part is you see her grow and him grow. He has his own trials and tribulations. One that stands out is the hitchhiking scene where he's all machismo about it and he's got his masculinity on the line. But that ain't how the country roll, baby.
no,
And so it's just nice to see them both genuinely learning, trying to mold, become better people, and then ultimately fall in love. It's fantastic. Screwball comedy is always taking two pretty opposite characters, You get the rugged journalist and the trust fund baby in this. His girl Friday is divorcing couple. So you always have these antithesis characters pitted against each other. And I think they do an excellent job having them grow together in essentially a road movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a very smooth transition, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But what did you think about their kind of depiction of that, one of the main themes of like city life and city people being thrown into the country? Did you like it? Did it further the plot in a nice way for you too?
Yeah, and like that theme, that trope, that style of story, or that type of story, I think is a freaking narrative goldmine, dude. Like, like it always works on me seeing someone thrown from the city into a country style setting.
Yeah. And they're
'Cause
still doing it. Like Schitt's Creek is is just that.
Schitt's
Like
Creek, fucking Your Name.
yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I especially felt it, not just in the hitchhiking scene, but like in the scene where they're sleeping in the hay.
Mhm.
I was like, oh man, like I didn't even think that like people had to do that. Like they just had to find like a pile of hay and make a bed. Like
Yeah.
sheesh, you know. But that was, yeah, it's really cool. It's a really unique thing. Uh, and um, it does get us on her side because I think
Mhm.
Ellie, right, is her name?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ellie has to do more work to win over the audience as a
Mhm.
character, and I think, you know, that sort of obstacle like gets that, it checks that box really quickly, and you're on her side, like even though she's like kind of annoying, like you're like, okay, cool, like like I've been in that situation that she's in. I've felt that sense of confusion that she's felt. Like I know exactly what this is, and I think that helps. I think if you're not won over on both characters, the romance doesn't work, and I think having the kind of, like you said, the conflict between city life and country life, like that helps it move by. It helps really sell it. Is what I'm, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Because you start out not really liking her much.
Yeah.
Like you respect her like gusto to just be like, fuck you, I'm gonna just swim off this boat and like dip out.
Yeah.
So she is a very like empowered, like compelling character.
Yeah.
But for the first act of the movie, when her and Peter are like just getting to know each other and just starting their journey, you're on Peter's side. You're like,
Yeah.
man, look at this dumb bimbo. She doesn't know how buses work. And so you just kind of side with him, and it does take time to win her over. And I think the hay scene is really like the definitive point where if you're not with her, you're probably not going to be, by now, or even the hitchhiking scene where she kind of shows him up.
Yeah.
But yeah, both are fantastic. Another thing that kind of birthed the screwball comedy, like I mentioned earlier, was you can't show sex. You're not allowed. No kissing. And one thing this movie's fantastic with is innuendo and kind of like implying shit. Namely, the end of the film, when they get the telegram that the walls of Jericho are crumbling, is a fantastic reveal. It's such a good payoff for that running bit. And I love it. But even like the dialogue is dripping with innuendo. as equally as they take like jabs and roasts at each other, they're also like subtly flirting. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, okay," and it's great. You see this on like the bus scene when she falls asleep on him. You get a very sweet, tender moment, and then the dialogue is very heavily implied sexuality throughout. But how do you feel they approached sexuality? Do you think they did a good job with the innuendo? Did you want more? Did you want less? You trying to see some titties or something? What do you feel on that front?
I was actually surprised because I forgot that this movie was pre-code. So I was like, oh wow, like this is like there's a scene where they're both undressing and he like you see his entire torso, and then also like you see I don't want to, I'm trying not to get too male gazy here, but like she takes off her clothes, right, and she gets all the way to her like waist, and normally that would never happen like in a movie that came out in the 1940s or the 1950s. That you wouldn't see, you would barely see shoulder until the 60s.
The ankle would have been too much.
Oh yeah, like showing the leg, for the hitchhikers, stuff like that. I think, and yeah, I like the innuendos in it. I know post code they had like Hitchcock had a bunch of like little things little tricks that they would do, or like Hollywood directors would have this code where like every time you see the letter X, that means that they're having sex. Yeah, like so it's interesting to see a movie that came out this early, like still not have any of that, not have to hide too much, like obviously they like it's a Capra film, like he's not going for like a boundary pushing, like he even though he could have if he wanted to, like it's still family friendly, and I think that's part of why the movie was so successful, but also like it keeps everyone entertained, especially the married couples in the theater. And I think that's why my parents got a big kick out of it when they showed it to me.
Yeah. It's great because you do have the sexual tension. You just don't get the release until it's just off screen, and then at that point you're like, it's a private thing, we don't need to be on the wall for that one. And it's delightful. Besides that, I don't have a ton to say. We were talking before, it's not very like hidden movies, not a lot of secret meaning deep in these. If you don't have any other topics, we can just jump right to favorite scenes.
Let me see. I didn't write anything else, but we can go through movie and I'll see if there's other. I mean, you talked about like the movie's fingerprint on the rom-com genre. Like, do you think that like I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. Like, so I've watched a lot of modern rom-coms in like 90s on or 80s on. Like, did it affect your viewing experience to see the typical rom-com tropes in this movie? Like, because if you watch it in a movie now, like you roll your eyes and you kind of like laugh along with it, but like going this far back and seeing those tropes play out in this particular story, like how do you feel about those kind of typical rom-com tropes, and like how does that affect your viewing experience?
I think it's a pretty positive across the board for the film, because you're seeing like not the very birth of these tropes. It's not the first rom-com. Like there were rom-coms before this, but it was one of the first, if not the first, screwball. It was one of the first where you have this kind of dynamic between the characters where they come from such different backgrounds and you have to like bring them together through adversity and trials. And so I think it's just cool to see the pieces kind of fall into place to see how we get here, how we get to like the big sick where Kumail is like riffing with Ray Romano, and they're just like talking quickly and jabbing at each other. Even that, they're obviously not the romantic interest in that movie, but it's just textbook this.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to see the origins. I can't help but like feel like, okay, yeah, like I've seen this before. But that happens with pretty much every like classic film. You're gonna see things that you've seen hundreds of fucking times, and you kind of just have to put on your 1930s watching hat and be like, this is the frame of mind for me now. So I kind of, for the most part, just ignore them or try to like piece them out to like, okay, what stuck around now, and what didn't. Like the themes of like masculinity and switching gender roles. There's a scene where Ellie takes the charge, and she's like out trying to get them out of the situation, and Peter's making breakfast and he's like emasculated by it. And so like even that is like now, like that's the shit that's like coming back again. Like we've kind of like done the cycle, got over it, went back to the misogynistic women don't have rights thing, and now we're like coming back. And so it's just cool to see like where the cycle started, basically, if that answers your question.
No, yeah, I think that's excellently stated, and I think that like we'll also see that in Charade as well.
Yeah, these movies actually pair real well together, because I think you do see a lot of the same themes and even the same styles. Like the dialogue and like performances of Charade are pretty screwball. I wouldn't call the movie as a whole a screwball, although it does mix thousands of different genres together. But there's like its fingerprints are even on that like 30 years later.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that was what I had.
Yeah, groovy. What favorite scenes do you have?
Ooh, okay. We've talked about a couple of them, so I'll try to think of more. Just her jumping into the water. I thought I got a big laugh out of that. I was like, "Oh shit, I forgot."
It's so like sudden. You're just like, "Oh, okay, yeah, for sure. Let's do this."
Yeah. Every time the male romantic lead meets the father, I always like giggle a little bit because it's always fun. Like it's just like I feel like a 12-year-old girl like watching that scene. It's so funny, and like and I love that trope of like, speaking of rom-com tropes and seeing it play out in this movie versus future movies. Like I love that idea of like the parent meeting the romantic interest and seeing like, oh, okay, this person's not that bad. This person's actually good for my kid.
They're not in it for the money. He just wants his like $40 back.
Yeah, and that's in The Big Sick too. Like, spoiler for The Big Sick, but like Holly Hunter's character like really bonds with Kumail, and that leads to her talking to her daughter and getting her taking him back. Yeah, like I love that about it, and about this movie too, and the oh my god, the biggest laugh the movie got out of me was when they got picked up by the guy in the Model T, and he's just singing. It's like he's just going all out, and they're just like looking at each other like I was like, oh my god, this is great. This is so,
and the fact that he just turns out to be a scam artist is fucking fantastic.
It's so good. It's so good on paper, but like the sound of him just like going full like belly full diaphragm, freaking just going for it, and like they're just like, dude, shut up. Like that was probably my favorite. That was probably my favorite joke out of my favorite gag. And I'm trying to think of a good of my favorite like dialogue scene between them. Um, I think it might be when they're on the bus and uh and they're like playing the kind of coy game with the seat. I thought that was really cool, and it was really like unique directing because Capra does a really good job, like in his other movies too, about using the actor's like full body in the shot, and I think that that scene did a really good job, them trying to fight over the seat in the bus.
Yeah. Also on the bus when they like the bus breaks down and she like gets all kind of scrunched up.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines is she's like, "No, thank the driver. This is the most comfortable I've been this whole trip." This was also pretty great. Yeah, we talked about some of my favorites too. The hitchhiking, meeting the father, like you mentioned. The walls of Jericho. Pretty much every time those are around, it's a good time. So I'll dig a little deeper. Shapely, the face off with with the creep on the bus. Just his character is hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Because he's repulsive as a human being, but like he's supposed to be, and that's so rare to see. Like not normally, but too often in 30s and 40s movies, that guy is the romantic lead. He's like, name's Shapely, and that's how I like him. And you're supposed to be like, yeah, go get him, Tiger.
Oh my God, yeah.
And so it's so nice to see him being like, that's my wife, and kind of just fuck with him.
Yeah.
It's great. So I'm a big fan of the Shapely stuff. I do like the hitchhiking, like after they get picked up too. I think that's fantastic. The breakfast scene I mentioned earlier, where he's like cooking breakfast and trying to tell her. Honestly, when they're at that, I don't remember what it is. It's like just a RV park, kind of.
Yeah,
half RV, half like motel. But everything that happens there is fantastic. The shower scene, but it peaks when they're almost found out and they're like still pretending to be the married couple and they're putting on the whole act. Loved it. Maybe my favorite scene in the whole movie when they're just pretending to be fighting and shit. And then they come back and they just jump right back into character. You really see and feel the chemistry between the two actors.
Yes.
In the best way. And it's really the moment where you're like, okay, yeah, they are like kind of meant to be together despite their differences. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think it's a beautiful movie.
Hell yeah. I agree. Great pick, man.
Thank you, sir. You too, putting on a little charade with this one. I hate it. Before we jump into it, though, it's time for Jared reads poorly written reviews of movies that we're watching because it's funny, it makes him laugh and stuff. I don't think I said that for the other one. I just jumped right into it.
You were so excited.
Yeah, just jiggling with excitement, and I'm excited. I'm jiggling for this too, because Charade, apparently such a good movie. Nobody on IMDb wants to badmouth it. So I went on over to Rotten Tomatoes and I found some goodies, but they're short. So here's two of them for you. Richard T gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Rare positive score for this segment. I know. Richard says Audrey Hepburn is hot. Cary Grant ain't looking bad either.
That's it?
4.5 out of 5.
That's great.
He's just like, she's a babe, and then that's that's all Richard needed.
That's awesome.
And the second one, they didn't have a name. It was anonymous. And they gave it a 1 out of 5. Hepburn and Grant fuss over each other for 2 hours while people die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what's good about it.
Spot on. Two, honestly, two accurate reviews. They are both very good looking, and people die in this movie. Uh,
Yeah.
so, worst poorly written reviews segment.
Yeah, man. Oh man, this is my third viewing of Charade. This was only my second for It Happened One Night. Um, I never really, I guess, people think of it more as like a thriller. I never really thought of it as a thriller, but
Yeah.
like,
Every single person mentioned Hitchcock when I was going through the reviews. And I'm like, yeah, kind of, but
kind of.
I don't think it's that Hitchcockian, but
Yeah, yeah, we'll get into a little bit of that later because this did come out when Hitchcock was at his peak popularity, but and I think that's where the comparisons are. Well, that's why the comparisons are so like infectious. But I always thought this movie was just really funny because I love Cary Grant as a rom-com lead.
oh
His
yeah. One of my favorite actors of all time.
He's so good, and like, even in thrillers like North by Northwest, but in his rom coms like To Catch a Thief, which is Hitchcock, or His Girl Friday, which is like a top fiver for me. Like I love that movie. Um, like I really love Cary Grant, and I really loved Audrey Hepburn, and I had been familiar with both of them. Audrey Hepburn is also very tied to this genre as well. Her first movie ever, which she won a Best Actress award for, was Roman Holiday. Um, but for both of them, like I was very familiar with both of their careers before landing on this movie the first time, and so to me, this was just like a freaking like this was like my Expendables, like
Yeah.
because it had those two guys, it had George Kennedy from Cool Hand Luke and James Coburn from freaking Great Escape and a couple other westerns. Oh, Magnificent Seven. And so like this movie was just such a treat to me. I didn't it came out of nowhere from my dad's DVD rental queue on Netflix, and so I loved it a lot. I ended up picking it in our like movie rotation years later, and I still liked it, and I like it now. I think it's a really good movie. Um, I think the thriller aspect is not the strongest, but the romantic comedy I think I think it's a top 20 of all time. I think it's really good. I love the kind of morbidness of it. I love the added twist that you can never really trust Cary Grant's character, because he changes his name 4 times. I I think Hepburn was born for this part. Like it was probably written for her, to be honest. But yeah, I think so many of the elements that come into play here just fit like a freaking jigsaw puzzle piece. It's so tight, so nicely woven together. The design elements, her all of her outfits were Givenchy, and it makes it feel very James Bondish.
It's in the credits before the line who did Audrey Hepburn's outfit, and that's fucking awesome.
It's so good. It's so good. I think it was shot on Technicolor, and I think but for some reason, I don't know, like there's nothing really, there's only a couple really remarkable compositions in the cinematography to me. Like it's other than that, it's very plain, as far as like the visual style, and so that's really my only thing with it. And like Stanley Donen is a great visual director. Like Funny Face with Fred Astaire and Audrey Hepburn like is one of my favorite like films on Technicolor ever. But for some reason, it just the cinematography on this watch just didn't do it for me. I do love the screenplay. I do love all the acting. So I don't really fault it that much. I'm going to give it an 8. I'll give it an identical score, 8.7.
Yeah. It is a very good movie. This was my second watch, and I think I had 3 or maybe even 4 of It Happened One Night. And I love it. I think it's a fantastic movie. Um, Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn are obviously fantastic. They always are in everything. And so this is no exception. The chemistry is off the charts, despite him being so much older than she is, to the point of being uncomfortable with it, apparently, during filming.
Yeah.
But they make it work. They still create a believable relationship, even though it's like the most unbelievable circumstances. And with that is because of what you said. The script is just tight. Like every single line is important or funny or character development. And like that's how you write. That's excellent. Even like one of the first lines, she's like, I don't need any more friends, so unless somebody dies, like you goodbye. Which is so on the nose, but because you know what's happening and what's gonna happen, it's perfect. And it's like it's just so good. The cinematography is fine. It's just whatever. Like it's same with like It Happened One Night. The people are on camera, and that's all you need for both of these movies. But the sets and settings are great. They switch a lot. Very rarely are they in the same place for like more than 3 to 5 minutes. They're always like bouncing around, which is delightful. It is, after seeing as many movies as we have, pretty damn predictable. Like you kind of know exactly what's going to happen. But that's not, I don't think it takes away from the experience that much.
No.
I'm really grasping at straws for any criticisms of the film because it's so good. Everything about it just flows. Both characters are funny, charming, and you kind of fall in love with both of them during the entire thing. Yeah, it's just a fantastic movie. I gave it an 8.8 out of 10. Big fan of Charade.
Hell yeah. Yeah. You said something earlier and I was gonna say something.
Yeah, that's how podcasts work. So that's how this whole thing kind of goes.
This is why I take so long with the edit, because I gotta cut the shit out. No.
Was it the script being tight?
No.
Was it the age gap?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the age gap thing, I read about that as well, but I think, but according to the special features on the DVD, they changed the script so that Audrey Hepburn's character would be the pursuer, and that and they also like added jokes about his being older, about him being
he
older.
calls her like a child a lot, like talks down to her.
Yeah, but I think that like adds to the uniqueness of the movie, and
Definitely.
And I think I was also gonna say like even the predictability of it kind of adds to the movie's cheeky humor. Like, yeah, well, you know, you're watching a Hitchcock. Like,
Yeah.
like I like, and so I still think it factors into it reinforces the charm. But we could start with Hepburn's character actually, like Regina. Reggie, very much not a typical rom-com protagonist, and I think a lot of, I do think a lot of female pursuers in the rom-com genre were modeled after this character, because of just how ridiculous she is, but also how genuine she is, and I think what separates her above the people that tried to copy this kind of character is exactly that, like Reggie's sincerity and Reggie's just wearing her heart on her sleeve. And so what did you think about her and her arc, and like the way she comes to meet with I forget his final name actually.
I can't keep up. Cary Grant.
Brian. His
Brian.
name is Brian, which is the most boring name, which I love.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah,
Brian
she's
Crookshanks.
she's fantastic. I love the way she plays the pursuer because she's so like bossy about it, even though
Yeah,
he's like so old compared to her, and he should be in that like authoritarian type position. Just because gender roles, age roles, everything points to him being like, "I, you're mine, baby,"
yeah,
and she's like that, and it's fantastic. It's so good because she's just head over heels for this dude who's obviously a criminal, tells her he's a criminal just outright, lies to her about the name, but she gets what she wants, and that's all it comes down to. It's fantastic. You see it from the get go when they're talking about the husband, soon to be ex husband, where she's like, "Thank God there's only one of him," like all this other shit. She's very opinionated and will tell you the opinion, which is fantastic. It fits that bossy pursuer archetype super well.
yeah,
And yeah, and she's just like seductive about it, but not overtly so. Like it's not hypersexualized. It's not super male gazy. Obviously, you're gonna have a little bit of that, but it doesn't rub off on the film. It's not putting me the wrong way at all. And so it's awesome. She's a fantastic character.
yeah. I agree, and it's like it's relatable too because it's buffered by moments of like fear and moments of
Mhm.
like she's in danger, and so I think that's why the audience never really leaves her side or never really stops being on her side, even though she's in love with someone who's like totally not,
Yeah.
totally she shouldn't be. Uh, yeah. We've talked about being fans of Cary Grant and his character here, um,
Mhm.
but like I guess compared to other like male romantic leads, like how do you feel about the way that um, Brian Crookshanks measures up?
I think he's great. I think he is more playing the thriller mystery character though.
Yeah,
He's not a very like you'll have the comedy aspect of rom com, and dogs are going crazy out there right now. Uh,
okay,
derailing the train that Reggie's husband was thrown off of. But it's so he plays more of the thriller mystery character, and I
yeah,
think that's why the genres blend so well together, is because he's thrown into the romantic lead, but the character doesn't want to be there. The character's
yeah,
like, I'm a criminal and I don't like this situation's weird and I don't like it. And that alone bridges the gap between thriller, between mystery, between like crime drama, between romantic comedy. And so having him be such a villain, but not one that you dislike, is just perfect. And
yeah.
it's the reason this movie works. And I don't know if anybody besides Cary Grant could have pulled it off this well.
No, no, I agree. I also loved like he has a very like special way of talking that's like um it's like exasperated but still keeping the sense of humor. Like 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 he's like, oh, I gotta deal with this shit, but I'm dealing with this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And like you touch on something that's key here to like you said the entire movie, which is like they're both fish out of water stories, right? He's a fish out of water. He's not used to
Hmm.
being to loving and caring for a person, and she's
Yeah.
not used to having to solve a murder, you know.
Yeah.
um, and so it's really really cool, and I think
Hmm.
they're it's great having two leads who are out of their element and the entire and the rest of the supporting cast is in their element. Like They have very clear goals. They know exactly what they want to do and how they want to do it, and they all three of them fail. But I think, you know, yeah, that adds to the whole like caper chaotic thriller aspect of it. It's just really fun and it's really cheeky. I think, you know, I guess we could talk a little bit about this now, but like the comparisons to Hitchcock's filmography, like
Hmm.
I, you know, I don't think it's necessarily fair, but I think the movie also is aware of the similarities, and I think that they're leaning
Yeah.
into it as like a fun thing, like the way Austin
Hmm.
Powers kind of leans into Roger Moore, James Bond, like it's they know what they're doing and they're having fun with it.
Yeah, and you see, maybe just because it's on my mind, but similarities to like Rope, where a
Yeah,
lot of the dialogue is death puns and
yeah,
shit like that. Like I mentioned one earlier where she's like, unless someone gets murdered. So you get a lot of that like super on the nose kind of jokes and gags mixed with the mystery of there's been a fucking murder. And it just works. It's I think leaning into it, maybe not exactly like, hey, we're trying to make a Hitchcock movie, but hey, people like this, and so let's just kind of toy around with it.
yeah,
Which is also going back to screwball comedy. Like part of the Venn diagram for screwball is farce, is satire, and this checks both those boxes pretty easily.
yeah.
It definitely leads into it.
I agree. I agree. The one that I wrote down was like when he's like, "What do I have to do to satisfy you? Become the next victim?" That's a start, anyway. Like that was so good. That was so good.
Mhm.
Oh man.
Did you know I mentioned there's nobody who could have played this like Cary Grant? Did you know there's a remake starring Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah, and apparently he speaks French in it, which
Apparently, I haven't seen it, but
I kind of want to. It's directed by Jonathan
yeah,
Demme too, right?
really, okay, I
I don't
didn't know
know.
that.
I don't know. I heard
The-
something about it, but like, hold
mhm.
on, Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, it's called The Truth About Charlie, I think. And part of that, I think I looked up if there were remakes because this movie, when it came out, apparently they just forgot to put the copyright on it. And so
Oh
it was just
wow.
in the public domain, and it still is. Like, you could just make Charade. Like, you could just write
That's
a
awesome.
remake script right now. So I thought there'd be so many. I was expecting like 50 different remakes just because it's easy to get the rights to, but
Yeah. Yeah, Jonathan Demme, almost 10 years after Silence of the Lambs, which is bizarre to me.
that
Like
is weird.
one of the greatest of all time tried to remake Charade with Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah. Uh,
Stupid. Okay, maybe I'll give
Tim
it a chance.
Robbins.
Tim Robbins. I love Sandy Newton, so I'm not gonna roast her, but
Yeah.
geez. Um,
We'll have to pick it for an upcoming one.
yeah.
Our next theme will be remakes of movies we've reviewed.
What was your favorite death in the movie? Because there's a lot of it.
Oh, favorite death.
Or favorite killing. I don't know.
Trying to remember. I watched this one the day we picked the movies. And so it's been like a whole last week.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. None of them like jump out, jump out.
Yeah. Because we only see the bodies. We don't really see the.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess like honestly her husband. I think it's a cool way to open the film having somebody just getting thrown off a train.
Yeah.
And it's the only one you like really see happen. So maybe cop out answer?
Yeah. I think seeing George Kennedy in the bathtub
Mm,
was the most visceral to me.
yeah.
Because I was like, what? Like this is the kind of movie we're in now? Like Like we're 40 minutes in. Like what's going on?
Why are motherfuckers still being gruesomely killed?
And he just survived like being thrown off the roof too, and so like him being the next victim is extra spicy.
Yeah.
And
That fight on the roof, sorry to interrupt,
yeah,
is so great, but it's so awkward the way the sound design is mostly shuffling around.
yeah,
And they like don't cut a lot. And so it's just like this weird kind of too long face off on the roof. And I loved it, but it was so awkward.
yeah. I'm not a fan of it either because I like Mancini's score is excellent throughout the movie, but except for that part because it's just
Yeah,
like
because
it's
it's just
really
like
low.
noir.
Yeah, like
it
it's
doesn't
not.
fit. There's no like action. There's no up tempo anything.
Yeah,
It's just like soft noir jazz almost type vibe.
yeah, it's weird. Towards the end of the fight, like you hear like cymbals crashing and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
but like when it starts, it is very very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the sound effects are the most prominent thing in the mix there, and it's like not good. um, uh, but yeah, I love seeing George Kennedy killed like that because it's so out of nowhere, and then they have the extra thing of changing him into his pajamas and putting him in bed, and his eyes are still open. I thought that was great. I
Yeah.
thought that was great.
Yeah, there's a lot of good visual gags like that too, which is nice for a movie that's not a very like visual thing. You know,
Yeah.
like it's mostly dialogue driven. And so those moments definitely shine.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Did you have anything you wanted to, anything else you wanted to bring up? Any?
Not really. I was because I talked about genre so much. Do you think it would count as a screwball? Do you think it's close enough or just adjacent or not at all?
It feels like they're dipping their toe in when the two of them are together. But the movie also like has so many jarring shifts in tone, and that's not a bad thing at all. Like
Yeah,
it's
they pull it off.
yeah, it's part of what makes Charade. But you know, comparing it to other movies in the screwball genre, I don't think it feels different. Even though it's a
Yeah.
similar vibe in the dialogue and the similar pace, like it's just I feel like it's too far into like into its own into a different rom-com subgenre.
Yeah,
than
it's
into-
bebopping a little too hard to
Yeah, a little bit.
to do.
A little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think most of it comes from Cary Grant, especially being an older actor and kind of being in those movies. I think he was kind of typecast for when he does lean into the romantic, to be that kind of screwball type character. He's definitely like roasting her a lot more than she's roasting him and shit like that. So I think most of it does come from his end.
Yeah, yeah. Did you feel like the plot was like too convoluted? Because I saw that in some critiques for it.
Yes, but is my answer to that. Yes, but I think it works to put you in Audrey Hepburn's shoes because she's equally confused. I think they purposely make it like that so you are confused.
Yeah.
Having different names for characters, having like, oh, it's cash, JK, it's gems, JK, it's stamps, and that kind of thing. I think they just purposely try to, because it's also fairly predictable. Like you need to kind of shake things around. So I don't think it hurt the film having it convoluted, but I do think it was too convoluted.
Yeah, I agree. It also adds to the suspense though, when she's being chased down by Walter Matthau. Walter Matthau's in this movie too. Holy shit.
Surprise.
Freaking Dennis the Menace guy is in this movie too, and The Odd Couple. Yeah, like such an all-star cast. It's so great. But yeah, when the two of them are are when he's chasing her, and then Cary Grant's also there, and they're like trying to do the gunfight thing, but playing chess. I think yeah, that was just really cool. And I think the confusion helps with that scene.
Yeah.
Favorite scenes.
Favorite scenes. I love the opening. I think they're in Switzerland at the ski lodge. All of that when they first meet. My favorite line in the whole movie is in that, and it's not even to him, it's to a child. She says, "Why don't you do something useful like start an avalanche?" And I don't know why, I fucking died laughing on that.
Yeah.
So definitely all of that. I like the scene where he reveals his real name to her. Is very sweet. You do get something on the nose because he says, "Oh, like I gave up this amount of money for your love," or something like that. I'm like, okay, little on the nose there too, but that's okay. So those two, the scene where she like first gets home and is like walking around the empty and abandoned house. There's some great suspense there. I liked it. And it's just kind of frantic, and they use the space real well. They like show the high ceilings to like make her feel real small, and it's one of the only interestingly shot moments of the film.
Yeah.
Trying to remember what I forgot because I'm sure there's so much. We lost our TV remote, so I had to watch it on my laptop on the TV, so I couldn't take notes during it. So I didn't write down any favorite scenes or any notes for any of these. This is all off the dome. Yeah, so I'll say those are my favorite scenes. One might come to me, and I'm sure you'll say like 3 or 4 that I also agree with.
No, yeah, I mean those are all great scenes. Those are all great candidates. I love the scene when they kind of get a chance to just have a date on the boat. I thought that was really, really cool. Like I love when movies can just put all, cynicism to the side, because the 60s was, very like I mean, I guess early 60s was a little more like optimistic, like yeah, we can actually get change and things can happen. But like movies later on in that decade were instantly like, no, everyone that tries to help gets assassinated. This movie came out right after the assassination of JFK.
Yeah,
And
they actually
so,
dubbed over a line that said the word assassinate in it.
oh really?
Yeah, she was like, at any moment we could be assassinated. And they like changed it in post because it was
wow.
bad taste.
That's crazy, dude. Yeah, man. And so, like, I love when movies can just be romantic, when they can have that and just own it. I wrote it down. I'm trying to find it. He's like, he has that line, like, hasn't it ever occurred to you that I'm having a tough time keeping my hands off you? And then she just like, her jaw just drops to the floor. He's like, oh, you should see your face. What's the matter with it? It's lovely. I'm like, yes, so good. She drops her fork, dude. Audrey Hepburn drops her fork because it's such a good line.
Yeah, and you need that because like this movie isn't romantic all the way through. Like you need those moments to balance out the tense scenes and the suspense.
Yeah, and that movie just works so well as a pivot point for the confusing climax. I like I also really, really love the scene when she encounters the guy with the stamps, and he's just such a pure stamp lover that he's like, they were mine for a few minutes, and that's all I need. And I was like, yes, dude, yes, that's awesome. I love that. Like, in my hands today, I held in my hands Amazing Spider-Man 91. I didn't buy it. Nobody claimed it, so I was just going back into inventory. But I held it in my hands, and it's the death of Gwen Stacy's father. It's the funeral of Gwen Stacy's father in that issue, and it happens right before Gwen Stacy dies, and it marked a turning point in comic book history. and like I held it in my hand. I had only read about it in the Marvel Encyclopedia as a little kid, but holding it in my hands, I was like, holy shit, it's an $85 book. And so like I just related to that scene so hard. And then I also, just any scene where the two of them get to be alone and get to just, whip, crack, snap, popple, crack, snap, crackle, pop.
Do you just have a stroke?
Whip, crack, snap, crackle, pop with the dialogue. I love it. It's great. I also love the final reveal of him being the treasury guy. Because he's just a boring money guy at the end of the day. Like, he's not even a spy. The whole movie, they talk about spies and make you feel like you're in a spy movie. It's like, no.
Agents.
I just recover. Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, I just recover the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And then there's that line too where she's like, I hope we have all boys so that we can name them all after you. And then it goes into a split screen of all his names. I was like, yes, yes, cinema. Yeah, man, this movie gets me stoked.
Yeah, it's fantastic. That split screen surprises me too. I forgot about it on this rewatch. I was like, oh fuck, multiple people in a shot. This is crazy.
Yeah, man.
Was it the Brady Bunch?
Hell yeah. All right. So that was Charade.
Yeah.
It's available for free on Amazon Prime.
And pretty much everywhere else because there's no copyright. So you just put it on YouTube.
Yeah, they have it on YouTube too. I forgot about that. And then what's it called? Where did you find It Happened One Night?
I think I watched it on Prime, but I paid for it. Yeah, it was $2.99. Also a premium subscription for Hulu, or pay money on any other site. I think Sling TV's got it too. But nobody uses that.
Nope. Yeah, go check them out again if you have already, or for the first time if you sat through this whole thing for some reason, you weirdo.
Yeah, always a weird move. Bunch of psychopaths in this episode. We got some weirdos listening to this one.
That's your third use of the word psychopath today.
I know, and it's just fitting. I'm going to bring it in. It's going to be a regular guest.
So good. All right. Audience, follow JaredCast on everything social media. Sorry, I sound weird today. It's just because I'm very tired. But we love you, and have a great day.
Bye-bye.